Thank you for listening to Comics for Fun and Profit. This is Kyle and Drew with a special spoiler-filled edition of Walking Dead, the comic by Comics for Fun and Profit. As most of you know, episode 193 of The Walking Dead released a few days ago. And boy, do we have some thoughts, do we have some opinions, and do we want to vent a little bit.
Yes.
And we thought we'd make this its own spoiler-filled episode so you don't have to scrub through a normal episode of our sneak peek and stuff. We just thought we'd put this all in one. So when you're hopefully finished with your entire Walking Dead run, your 193, if you're coming to us after that fourth omnibus comes out in October, welcome. And we just want to talk about what we now know.
Yes. So we've gone through, I think all of us, and a lot of listeners, fans, Kyle and I have gone through the stages of grief with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. We've gone through all of it. And this all started with a rumor. This all started with a rumor early last week. I think Eric
Monday.
might have shared it with us first before even Bleeding Cool.
I was say.
Yeah, he had it before Bleeding Cool, and hey, there's.
And it was just something he had heard. He didn't have
Yeah.
necessarily inside information.
Yeah, he said there's some scuttlebutt that the Walking Dead issue is really the last, and they've just been soliciting fake issues to catch everybody off guard. And I said, no, that's ridiculous.
That would be silly. We're coming up on 200. Why would we do that?
And he told me, Kirkman told me, well, as you know, he had a plan for 300 issues. You know, so he wouldn't. That's a weird thing to do. So, you know, then Kirkman tweeted after that. Kirkman tweeted and said, "Hey,
You're probably hearing some stuff.
yeah, we got a big oversized issue coming out. You're going to hear some spoilers. You might want to go dark until you read the comic, because it's a big deal." I'm like, huh? Oh, that's something. And it
But
kind of
Drew, I already ordered 3 copies of 194, 195, and I was writing down 3 copies of 196 like I always do.
yeah. You were still in it. And our listener Glenn Clark kind of said he was kind of experiencing the same thing at this time, and he said, "Wait, what? Tomorrow's Walking Dead is the final issue? Wow." I'm sure you're going to discuss this, right, on the next podcast? Yeah. Well, hopefully we were going to discuss that it wasn't true, but that did not seem to be the case. So, I think we were all kind of dumbfounded, and no, it's not really possible. And then there were folks like our listener Jason who said, the real reason Kirkman is ending this series is because he heard you, Drew, had stopped buying extra copies. And he said, "Hey, since you guys said that Walking Dead was what brought you into comics, if Walking Dead ends, does that mean you and Kyle are going to stop reading comics?" Well,
That's me washing my hands of this whole comic industry.
you know, it makes a lot of sense. That's true. It's true. Walking Dead brought us both back. And if it's ending, should we be bouncing? Should we be done? I don't know.
Should our foray into comics be summed up in a 97 issue run of that?
Exactly. And then our speckers started popping up. Jason says, "Do you think collectors who have the complete series should sell now?"
Yes.
And Wade Ludden says, "So do we dump all of the Walking Dead copies?"
Yes.
I don't know what would make them go up in value in the future now. The show is probably already going to be on a downward slope. And then Jason comes back with, "Do you think this will be an evergreen collection in Image?" So you say dump it. You say dump.
I mean,
all.
I'm talking as a person who has three full runs from 100 to current.
So it's easy to dump. It's easy to dump 2 of those.
Yeah, but I am going to forever keep a run.
Forever keep a run.
Yes, because it's Walking Dead.
Yes.
I want to have that.
Yes.
It's Why the Last Man. I want to have that. There's just a few things that I just... Hey, I'm a comic book collector. This is part of my collection. And one of them will be all of the Walking Dead I have. Yeah. But that's why I went multiple on everything.
Yeah, I guess, we usually do err on the side of a bird in the hand is worth more than the bush, more than 2 in the bush. So you should probably cash in a $20 book if you've got $2 or $3 in it. Why not? But it'd be hard to sell them all. For me, it'd be hard to say, okay, somebody offered me $300, so I could just dump all my Walking Dead comics, or $500. Yep. I don't know if I could do it. Because I still want to have some of them. So I'm on the fence. Yeah,
but it's possible when talking about comics, Walking Dead won't ever come up again, and Walking Dead doesn't ever come up again. Walking Dead sales will never be a format again. It's not like, ooh, they're talking about the rights to making a Walking Dead TV show. Nope, done.
Yeah, that's true. Matt chimed in because he's getting closer to acceptance at this point. And he's saying Kirkman has an essay in tomorrow's issue, and it's available online. And the piece I read is a really great read. Mm-hmm. I'm genuinely surprised at this situation, but I think I'm happy with his decision. I'm glad he is ending the book on his terms and with his plan for the end intact for so long without interference. I've personally always felt, regardless of how often Kirkman would say otherwise, that the series would and should begin and end with Rick. So I'm glad that that is basically the case. I'm very excited to read the issue tomorrow and see how he wraps this up. So going into the issue, knowing it was the end. This is after he read it. He sent us something else. So he says, now going into the issue, knowing it was the end, I don't think it ruined my enjoyment. I thought it was a really strong ending and about as positive as I could have ever expected. Extremely satisfying ending, and overall the capper on a really superb run. Kirkman and Adlard should be very proud of what they were able to create with this series, and that's something I definitely agree with too. So now that we've accepted this is happening and the book is out, some of our listeners are having trouble finding it. Franklin said that his shop, Midtown, put a limit of 1 per person on 193. So he was able to just get snag one, which they stores do that from time to time. But so you got this in your greedy little hands, Kyle, and you read it.
Too. Yes.
What'd you think?
It was awesome. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of no better way to end it. I couldn't come up with a better way to end it. There's, of course, some loopholes and some questions I have in my mind about many a thing. But all in all, I laughed, I cried, I got my warm fuzzies. I said goodbye. I grieved.
Yeah.
And that's what we were supposed to do.
Yep. I think I'm right there. I really loved it. I mean, I was sad, but I really, really loved it. I loved the fact that we did another time jump, man. And we
jumped like 20 years.
Yeah, and we walked through where we're at as a society in Walking Dead. And through Carl's eyes, Carl ends up. Did we give a spoiler warning at all?
I said spoiler filled at the beginning, and we're going to tag this entire episode as spoiler filled. Okay,
so he ends up with not Lydia, but what's her name?
Sophia.
Which was kind of a surprise for me. And as I'm reading, I'm like, well, what about Lydia? What happened to her? And of course, then we get that closure, and we find out what's going on with her, and some of the other characters and children that were about to be born or weren't born yet, where what happened to them and what they turned out to be. I thought that was really fun, and you get to see a little glimpse of the characters that you kind of knew and maybe were just touched on lightly. I thought that was fun. I really enjoyed seeing the world that we were in now. That it's a world where walkers aren't really dangerous. They don't really even exist anymore. That there's whole generations of people now in this world that don't know what a walker is, have never seen a zombie, and the fact that it's so safe now that they could live like that is pretty awesome. And they did hammer it home pretty heavy that this was because of Rick. If it wasn't for Rick, this world would never have been possible. I think I agree with that, right? I mean, he was kind of the visionary for working together and no more killing, and
Yeah, I mean, between his all the speeches he's done and the things he talked about that were possible when he gave his speeches in Alexandria, and the things he said that were possible that led to his ultimate death at the end, his last, I guess, real speech. I mean, yeah, this was his vision. This was what he helped build. This is what he helped create. This is what he said was possible, and we had 193 issues of mostly people telling him it wasn't possible. And yeah, I'm of the opinion that if not for Rick Grimes, society doesn't necessarily exist in a place where walkers are no longer known by anybody in the next generation.
Now, I do have I have small nitpicks, and it's my own fault. Some of these characters that were touched on, they were aged by Charlie Adlard, and to such a degree that I didn't recognize them very well by their features nor their name. So like there were a couple characters that they interacted with that I didn't know. I don't remember where did we get this? Where did this person come from? What do they do? What's their history? We didn't really wrap up anything with Princess. You can see whatever happened to her, really. We got to see Eugene again, which was cool, and see that he was working. He got the train running.
Yep.
That was fun. We got to see what happened to Michonne, and she became the highest judge in the world.
Judge Hawthorne.
Yeah, Maggie became president of this new United States, and we saw Jesus and Aaron. Right, they were together.
We didn't see them. We talked about them, and we why don't we visit them more, kind of thing. Yeah.
I think we might have seen there was a panel, a quiet panel, when they were jumping around and talking and showing everybody without any. Yeah, I think they were in one of those. Who else kind of got closed up here?
I mean, we did get Sophie or Lydia.
Yeah, we got Lydia.
We of course get Maggie's son. Herschel, yeah. Yeah, we get that. And a few other people. I think Magna was in there for a bit, and we get but don't get our Negan closure. We get our Sebastian closure, which was nice.
Yes. He and his governor were kind of just in prison together, or she was visiting him.
She was visiting him, who we see is still in prison and still old. Aged. So yeah, he's continuing to spend his life in prison, like the plan originally was for his crimes of murdering the most popular person in the world, essentially. Yeah.
And it was a pretty great wrap up, pretty positive. One of the happier Walking Dead issues, really. Nothing bad happened, really, and any kind of drama was dealt with pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I as far as the story is concerned, I really enjoyed the way it ended, and I'm glad he did ended it on a happy note after so many tragic ends and tragic decisions up to that point. Um, I I appreciated that. I thought that was pretty fantastic. And then we get, I don't know if you want to talk about the book anymore, but I wanted to talk about the back matter. So if you got more plot points you wanted to hit on, you could go ahead and.
Yeah, 72 pages. I thought it spent a good amount of time with Carl and what Carl's doing and the life Carl has made. And, you know, he has a daughter, you know, they've named Andrea.
Yeah, that was nice.
A lot of really cool stuff. I mean, a lot of loose ends tied up. He's still using Michonne's sword kind of things. And you get the closure of his eye and why he still wears the patch constantly and what his thoughts are on life, and you know, still talk about him. He talks a bit about his smithing days, and he talks a bit about his carving and whittling things. So they make sure to touch on a lot of the things that made Carl Carl, and what kind of adult that made Carl. And I thought that was pretty awesome. And then like I spent a lot of time within this last issue comparing the way that, you know, Maggie's son Herschel grew up and the way that Rick raised his son Carl in this new world, and just, you know, of course as a father that would be the thing that I would grab onto a lot with this last issue, is kind of what Rick did not only for society but for his son, preparing him for this thing. I mean, we saw an issue ago in 192, you know, he didn't even hesitate to shoot his own father when he became a zombie. That's just kind of what he's become now. And then we see it 20 years later, he still has that sense of, you're going to always do what's right. You know, he couldn't even fathom the fact that he would move a roamer or a walker into society, that anything that would come of that, why would he ever put people in harm's way, and how would he ever live with himself knowing that that was completely the wrong decision to ever make. And then on the flip side, you have Herschel doing anything he can to make his money, and me just thinking about Glenn, and this being Glenn's son, and just the way he came up. And then of course we're always comparing him to Sebastian, so there was so much of that with these characters and how they grew up and the life that they have because of the circumstance. There was so much within just 72 pages. It made 72 pages seem super, super short.
Oh, I flew through them, yeah.
I did too, and like, it was great. I loved every second of it.
And I really love the way that they designed future Carl. I mean, he looked like Rick. He acted like Rick.
Yeah.
He has replaced Rick, and he was that voice. And the idea that he's reading his daughter Andrea a children's book that's the story of Rick Grimes, as recreated as a children's nursery rhyme or children's book. I thought was fantastic. And you know, at the end she wants to him to read it again, and that's kind of how it was really a fitting way to do that. It celebrated his life and this story, and really I thought was touching throughout. You know, if you flash back to the end of 192, when Carl's going to take his body back, and there's a couple people that want to go along with him, and then they
2 pages of people.
Then it just widens out. Well, you know, there's a couple people that want to tag along, and it's like everybody came out for Rick because of who he was, and that really got me hard, man. And then I was like, oh, geez, where's Kirkman going to go? Well, now I know. In hindsight, it's so stupid that I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In reality, that was the end, and this is the wrap-up.
Yeah. Yeah, that exactly. 192 really, yeah. That, and this is kind of just battening some things down. And then I thought the essay was wonderful that
Yeah.
Kirkman added in the back. I read
He
every.
he left it all on the counter. This is the stupid mistake I was originally going to do. This is the stupid mistake I was planning to do, and this is how I decided to just do what needed to be done.
Yeah, and he expressed, "Hey, I regret this already.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave this character. This has been the greatest experience of my life. I don't want to stop writing this."
Changing it to past tense mid sentence.
Yeah, yeah. And he talked about originally, because this thing sold nothing its first year. It he didn't have any kind of long range plan for it, and once it started to pick up a little bit of steam, well, we thought, well, maybe I can get to 72. If I can get to 72, I have these ideas, and and if you think back to when that was, he was talking about, well, remember in Alexandria when Rick comes in and rallies the troops and says this place is worth saving, and throws his fist in the air, and we need to live together, and etc. And he said, then he was going to freeze it on that image of Rick and pull back, and then it went from being Rick to being a statue of Rick, and then it went from being a statue of Rick to a moss-covered statue of Rick with buildings in Alexandria that started to crumble, and then you pulled back again, and the walkers had taken over again and had won. So his idea originally was, Rick had some short-term success, was able to succeed temporarily, but ultimately lost to the walkers.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just went on to just destroy that ending. That was, I mean, I thought that was an okay ending. I could have, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah.
I think this is better, what he did,
Yeah.
because it was just it made me feel a little better. But he said, that at that point, he decided that was out, and he had some more ideas. Well, the idea was always to get to 300, because it's the magical number for an independent comic.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Sims Cerebus hit that, so that's what creators want to do. And then as he got through the Whisperer War, and a time jump, and some other plot points that he had all laid out, he realized there's no way he can get to 300, because everything he had to say was not going to get that far, and he'd just be doing filler arcs after filler arcs. And
Mm-hmm.
we've had people that have written in, the critics of the series have been that they're just propping up another governor, and that he's repeating himself. So maybe there was a little truth to that he felt it too, that I am kind of just filling this stuff in. But when I look at it holistically, he needed to get to the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
The Commonwealth needed to exist for there to be long-term success of the civilization.
Correct.
A little tiny Alexandria and hilltop civilization with 20 and 30 people is not going to begat this fantastic safe zone that stretches all the way across the country again.
Yeah.
So they had to find some massive civilization pocket of people that they could reshape, and so in that regard, I think that's the purpose that the Commonwealth served, and I'm glad he got there. But anyway, then he goes on to say, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through that, and I didn't want to do filler issue after filler issue, and so he called it. But he did say, after writing the last issue, I wanted to change my mind, but I was too far down the road. I couldn't, and I just felt incredibly genuine, which I think is what I love about The Walking Dead the most. Is it feels authentic and genuine throughout. It feels like you could be in that situation and experiencing that, and that's how people would react. And I am now come full circle. I've now come to terms with this wonderful series that I love, that brought me back into comics, and it's over. It's over. Didn't even make it to 200. Thought Kyle, you called it. You're like, well, he's not. He should have saved that for 200 when they killed Rick. That should have been a 200 thing.
Yeah,
but maybe that's why he zigged when we thought he was going to zag.
Well, he said he did it for the omnibus people. 48.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
48.
Right, because 48 would end at 192, and then you would get that reveal, and that would be the end. And then I don't know how you get 193. Do they just chalk it into that omnibus, or is it a standalone trade?
As a specker, I'm hoping you still have to buy the 72-page 193. Go out and find it.
Well, there's still like a 17th print that you can get at this point.
Yeah.
But you got to call Drew and Kyle for the first print.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm assuming it'll just be rolled up, and it'll be 48, 48, 48, 49.
49, you think, in that last one?
Yep.
Yeah, it was an emotional roller coaster. It's been on my best of list year after year. I kind of think I retired it after a while because, really it's always going to be Walking Dead. Or it's always going to be Robert Kirkman, who's my favorite creator. It's always, so after they win multiple awards, you kind of retire them from that.
Yeah, it's like Fiona and
BKV,
the Saga crew from.
Yeah.
We don't talk about them in award season anymore.
Yeah, we've given them their due, and it's well deserved. But yeah, they could win it all the time. So I am not saying I'm happy that it's gone. I would have loved filler. I would have loved the spinning wheels for arc after arc. I love the world. I wanted to stay and hang out and explore every little nook and cranny. I wanted to see how
see how far this railroad goes.
Yeah, I want to see Eugene building the tracks and dealing with that stuff. I wanted to see everything. And yeah, it's just, it was great. It was just great. And hats off to Robert Kirkman. A little bit of credit for Tony Moore. He designed everything in the first 6 issues.
Yep.
Adler really did everything else since then. But it's really Kirkman's vision, and hats off to him. And what an accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just things retired, and got a lot of closure from Michonne's speech and that as well, and just I'll look at it as one of the great comic book runs I've ever read. Yeah,
I mean, I can't put anything above it. I mean,
I can't either.
I mean, I've loved every issue of Sagas 52, 54, wherever we're at. I loved all 75 of Why the Last Man. Nothing else is even close. I don't think that number and that sustained greatness. I just I can't think of anything that I would put up.
We just had Spawn clear 300, but don't mean not. Yeah.
I haven't read a Spawn regularly forever. But what
more so than his Invincible run?
Yep, this is better than that. This is definitely better than that. Now, what's next for Walking Dead? Because the Samurai writes in and says there's still a third Walking Dead TV show scheduled to start up next year. So he said, I have no idea when, but someday, could we possibly see some Walking Dead universe comics not connected to Kirkman? The Kirkman series?
Heck yeah. I mean, let's do it. I'm in. I hope so. I doubt it. I mean, people are getting zombie fatigue, as it were, and now we're moving on from quote unquote the original series, and nothing will ever be quite what that was, regardless of what it actually is.
Yeah.
So everything's even more of an uphill battle. You and I are of the opinion that we complain a lot, but we love our post-apocalyptic, and we love our zombies, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Well, I mean, I've watched every episode of both series and continue to love them. I don't know if they're going to wrap up the original series and continue to do spin-offs as a cost-saving thing.
Because it can't end the way the book ended.
It's impossible because they've already killed off people. But Judith could be Carl.
True.
On the show, and she could be reading the book to her kid down the road.
True.
With another time jump. So yeah, you could definitely do that. But we got to get through Whisperer War. We got to get through. We got to get to the Commonwealth, right? On the TV show. But then we're there. What else is there?
Yeah.
There really isn't anything. So we're looking at another year and a half, a season and a half, really, pretty much all we got left. And so unless we want to do, I mean, because we're doing a lot more with Negan on the show than we were in the comic. But we've already spun off 2 characters from the main series into Fear, The Walking Dead. I'm not sure what the third show is going to be that's starting next year. Is that the one that's in China?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I'm cool with that. And then we have the standalone Andrew Lincoln led TV movies that are going to just be following Rick Grimes after his helicopter ride, and I don't know what that's going to lead to.
Yeah,
but so Walking Dead's still got some life left in it. It's never going to be the same without the comic leading the way and being ahead of the. It becomes a Game of Thrones situation.
Yeah,
and without that blueprint, I think it's going to suffer a little bit. But maybe not. I'm willing to.
Which right now it's already the show you love to hate. Well, the internet loves to hate. So I'm curious whether this maybe gives it some extra legs, or people continue to pile on more.
Yeah, I'll be curious what direction that goes in. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster week. We laughed, we cried, we we really reflected on what this comic meant to us, and it meant a lot. It meant a lot to both Kyle and I, and to a lot of you who a lot of feedback and tweets and stuff regarding Walking Dead. So it's good to see that there are other people that were positively influenced by this comic as much as we were. So hope you enjoyed the wrap up as well. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on how it wrapped up and what you thought of Kirkman's eulogy at the end. I really can't give it a higher grade, a high enough grade. It's an A plus for me for in perpetuity forever, and a book I love.
Yeah. Anything else, sir?
No. Let's go have a drink.
That's right. So yeah, like Drew said, just write us in, send some tweets, Facebook messages, whatever. Tell us what you thought of the final 193rd issue of Walking Dead, or just what you think of Walking Dead comic series as a whole, where you think it stacks up in the pantheon of comic series, either Kirkman in general, or just how you think it does, and whether now that Walking Dead is gone that you think Drew and I should hang up our microphones as well.
Yeah,
Go ahead and toss that in there as well.
Yeah, should we ride off into the sunset like Kirkman?
Yeah, but hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully this helped you guys grieve with us and get some closure, because I just know how long I stared off into the corner of my room after I finished 193, and we are here for you guys. So thank you guys so much. For Drew and for myself, see ya.